Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Progressive Queens. I have my partial panel here today, Talisha and Miss Mickey.
Hi.
Guys, wave to the camera and say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
We have a lot to talk about. So, our main subject today, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter, but I have to get to some of the news that has happened this week. And again, I don't want to pick on anybody, but I just think the Democratic Party is just a bunch of, I want to say a word so bad, but I don't cuss, so I can't say it on my own channel. But it starts with the letter A and it has hole in it because that's what they're acting like. This whole situation with a parliamentarian that decides that the $15 minimum wage isn't going to, and somehow they're talking about bending to that one person's will when they could completely, that's just a suggestion. That person doesn't have any legislative power. Why in the world are the Democrats trying to pull out this excuse? It just seems flimsy to me.
They never wanted to raise the minimum to start with, and now they have their excuse.
Exactly. Exactly. I read online that the parliamentarian makes 171,000 plus some change per year, which calculates out to like $87 an hour. Seems to me like the parliamentarian and all of Congress needs to start making the 775, which is the current minimum wage, or let's even be generous. Let's give them that $10 an hour that Mitt Romney is peddling, and let's see how they survive. And I guarantee you, by the end of the week, it'll be up to an exponential amount of money because they can't do it, and these rich people that sit and make the laws aren't in touch with the people, and they don't care that people are dying and starving and they're having to maintain 2 and 3 jobs just to survive.
I mean, what
Did
kind
you
of,
see?
go ahead, I'm
Did,
sorry, Mickey.
did you see where they're pushing now? She is nonpartisan.
Mm.
She had
Well,
no
money should
problem.
be nonpartisan.
Well,
Like
no,
they're all rich.
she had no problem approving of the tax breaks for the rich. She
Mm.
had no problem approving of the millions in PPP that the rich people got. She has had no problem with any Republican giveaways, but she's nonpartisan.
Well, it goes to show that capitalism does not have an ideology. It's all about how much money they can keep in their pockets and how much they can deprive the people of having.
I looked it up. Do you know how much our senators work? At most, for that $174,000, stop. At most, they work 170 days a year. The average person who has only one job works 360 days a year.
Jesus.
170 days a year for $175,000.
I'm in the wrong
What?
profession. I'm in the
Yeah.
wrong. I'm just literally in the wrong profession. I just wonder how the Democrats going to campaign in 2022. Well, you didn't get the $15 minimum wage because of the parliamentarian. I mean, how stupid do they think that we are?
We're not canceling student debt.
Nope.
No.
The promise of punishing the Saudis, he said, not now. The
Mm.
promise of taxing the rich, he said, this is not the right time. I mean, how many? We're going to lose the House and or the Senate in 22, and then be prepared for a Trump or worse in 24.
Absolutely. I honestly think that is the goal. The goal
Yes.
is to have the
Hmm.
Republicans in charge so they can throw up their hands and say, oh, it's the obstructionist Republicans.
Yep.
They honestly do not want to do these things. I literally just heard the other day, they're now going back on reversing the Trump tax cuts. So they're not even going to do that. The little bit that is actually literally killing the middle class, because on paper, I'm somebody's middle class. And last year, just me alone, not my husband, just me alone, I paid 15 grand in taxes. Donald Trump paid
Oh my
$700.
God.
It's just ridiculous. It's like, and I don't want to vote or shame anybody because I know people voted for Biden for certain reasons. But I'm like, all we got out of it was from a $2,000 pledge to now $1,400, maybe if we get around to it.
Mhm.
Then we got the bombing in Syria. Now we
Mm.
don't have the student like what what is it what is it about this party that's just going to just shake them, just like somebody come in there and shake them, because it's like they either they don't want to hear, they don't care, or they're completely stupid, or my personal favorite, it's a combination of all three. Because I just can't figure this out. Nobody made Biden campaign on any of the promises that he made. Nobody took a gun to his head and said, okay, you better promise $2,000 checks. And yet now you're going back on everything that you said. And now our so-called left media, and I don't call them left, but they call themselves leftists, they're just like, well, he's not
They
trying.
Well,
tried.
people
Yeah,
are saying, give him time. Give him time. He had 2 years, almost 2 years since he announced. He didn't have a platform ready. He didn't have plans ready. He has, I read, almost 2,000 people working directly under him, working on many, many different things. Give him time. Do people think he has an idea, sits down and writes it out, and that's how things are done? 2,000 people working under him. Give him time.
Right.
yeah, it's just ridiculous. I just don't know what is going to take to wake the average voter up. I just don't, because I think with this one, they may be so frustrated they'll do the worst thing ever and just be like, you know what, I'm not going to vote. And that's
Right.
really the worst thing that can happen. Because if
Right.
that happens, you're going to get Trump running again in 2024, because let's face it, he's not going to jail, much as I would like to see it. He's not going to jail. Um, you're going to get the Republicans are going to control both the House and the Senate, and we really are going to be in for it. And I just don't know. Like, somebody should just tell them, you know, strike now while the iron is hot, because you're not going to get it back if you keep doing stupid, insane things like this. It just amazes me. It just
Like Talisha,
does.
like Talisha said, that's their plan.
Right.
They are intentionally weak so that they can sit back and tell the people, we tried. You see, we tried. But the
Right.
Republicans are the ones who blocked it.
And people are buying into that. I'm like, no, we're, and I use a $2,000 so-called stimulus, because I don't think $2,000 is enough to do anything. But I use that as my example of people like, oh, you should just be happy you're getting 1,400. No, but he promised 2,000. What are you? It's like you're not even holding him accountable, because he's not Trump. Okay, I'm
Ah.
not Trump. Vote for me. That's my whole platform. That's it. That's all he had to say. Really, really. Now I know Trump is bad. Trump is terrible. But come on, really, you gonna really say that?
If
But
you're
let's
going to
be
use
real.
Trump,
That's exactly what he said. He literally spent the last 2 years campaigning on I'm not Trump, and it worked. When Hillary tried it, no one knew what Trump was. So it didn't really land as much. But then we got 4 years of Trump, and Trump was horrible. Trump was bad. Trump was trying to take away people's rights. He was outwardly racist. He was outwardly sexist. He was all those bad things that the Republican Party whispers behind closed doors, and he was saying it out loud. So Joe Biden literally landed the presidency off of I'm not the other guy. This will not stand in 2022. This will not stand in 2024. It's almost as good as gone already, because they've already broken promises, and their excuses are not holding up. The electorate is not as silly as some of their behavior is when they elect these crazy people in the Congress. They're still not stupid, and they know a lie is a lie. And when you said you were going to give 2,000 and then you backtrack and say, oh, no, we were adding the 600 to the 1,400. Excuse me. We're not under the same administration. This is your administration. You said 2,000. You were talking about 2,000 even after the 600 stimulus went out. So that's a lie. When you said you were going to give $15 minimum wage, that was the compromise, because people in the progressives were talking about 2,000 a month. So they were like, well, no. If we just go ahead and up the minimum wage, we don't have to do the 2,000 a month, because we're going to give X amount of people extra money per year. So they put all these things up as to basically beat back progressive ideas. And now that they've caught the car, they don't know what to do with it. They know what to do with it. They just refuse to do it because their donors, the moneyed interest, is telling them that's the line. We're not going to do this. Crumbs for everyone and riches to the very small few. I literally just read where we all know this pandemic has hit and we've lost trillions in money to the working class. Well, trillions went to the rich. 660 people made over $1.3 trillion. 660 people. And the rest of the country, do that math, 330 million people lost $1.3 trillion. But the 1.9 trillion that Biden's trying to put out, that's a deal breaker when it would help everyone. Because, and I quote, Joe Biden says he doesn't want rich people getting a cash flow. $1,400 is not a cash flow.
No, it's not. And to be honest, again, $2,000 it should be per month. The minimum wage at $15 an hour, I think is too low because I question whether people can live off of $15 an hour.
It's not.
Personally, in my personal opinion, it should be probably 30, 35. Somewhere in that reason, and I know somebody in the comments is going to be like, you're crazy. But if you think about what it takes to live, just off of whatever the minimum wage is, $7.25, $7.75, whatever it is, you can't do that off of that much, and you really can't do it off of 15. There's no way that you can afford an apartment, a nice apartment, not even a house, a nice apartment in a nice neighborhood, not for 15 hours an hour. You can't. No,
you cannot.
Every study has shown that if minimum wage kept up with inflation and productivity, it would be at a rock bottom $24 an hour now. That would be the rock bottom.
Right.
So 15 is not livable.
Yeah, 15 is not in play. Everybody's like, fight for 15. No, fight for 25. Let's fight for 25. I said 35 because that's what I personally think. But this whole joke of $15 an hour is just like, y'all really want me to buy this?
And to have to fight for that little bit.
Yeah.
To have to fight.
You're fighting for crumbs.
Yes.
You're taking whatever little crumbs that Amazon and Walmart want to give, and for Romney to even propose 10, which is absolute, he could have kept that to himself. He didn't even
slap in the face.
What's even to show how clueless they are? What's his name? Cotton. He's proposing 10. His state already has 11.
So you want to take $1 away?
I mean, come on. Where's the brains?
Oh my God.
Let me lower it for my state.
And then look at John Thune. John Thune, he's 60. He's roughly 60 years old. He comes out talking about his hard luck story of when he had to put himself through college and he was only making $1 an hour and work his way up to cook. And finally, I think eventually got $6 an hour and put himself through college and paid off all his college debt. What he neglected to mention was that his college debt was $900 per year to go to college for 4 years. The average college tuition per semester is $10,000. And that's average, and I think that's on the low end. It's $10,000 a semester. So for this fool to come out of his mouth and talk about a $1 minimum wage and talk about how he did his work and put himself through school, he needs to be shaken so hard that his brain scrambles back right. Because the simple fact is, the prices have gone up, the money has not gone up. So people are literally struggling to survive.
When my first real job, my minimum wage was $1.25. We also had gas wars at the time, where gas was 25 cents a gallon.
Right.
So that kind of argument, it's a false equivalency.
Exactly.
And I don't know how to express in words how upset that I just want to scream to everybody that has any type of progressive issues, run for office. We have to get rid of these people. They are just so ignorantly, especially like the Republican Party. I have no hope for them, just to be 100% honest. They're gone. They're the party of Trump. Goodbye, good riddance. But this Democratic Party, either there needs to be a takeover or they just need to be kicked to the left because it's like they don't listen. They lie. They literally lie about their campaign promises. I mean,
Right.
I know a politician can't do everything that they want to in a campaign. I understand that. But this level of lying, I'm just so I'm so wary of it at the root of why voters seem to be tolerating it. It's like, okay, if Trump did this, let's just say that Trump did the very same thing that Biden was doing, you would be angering MSNBC for him to be out of office. But because he's not Trump, you're just easy peasy with talking about how great it is to have honesty back in the White House.
Mm,
Really?
Tracy,
Really?
you said the magic words, Tracy. Run for office.
right.
Tracy, run for office.
Mm. That's gonna be that's my advice for everybody else, not for me. Because I, I don't think I have the gumption to take it. But I definitely encourage progressives to run because we need the Cori Bushes and the Jamal Bowmans, but we need them as city councilors, as mayors, as
Yeah.
state reps. That's where we need it because change comes from the
On the
ground
local
up.
level,
Yeah, it
absolutely.
always starts at the local level. And I want to move on to our next kind of topic before we get into Black Lives Matter. Is our least favorite congressperson, Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene, has decided to somehow come out against the transgender community for whatever reasons that she decides to have. Basically, this woman makes me want to vomit. Anybody wants to offer thoughts? I'm gonna just sit this one out.
She's not just coming out against trans. She's just feeling the Republican Party line.
Exactly.
The others are no good. And the others mean anything other than white, fake Christian, wealthy, mostly men with their women subjugated. That's
Right.
it. That's all that matters in this country. Doesn't matter if you're trans or gay or black or a woman. It doesn't matter. That's the Republican platform.
Absolutely.
Hate, hate, and violence.
So Marjorie decided she was going to try to put in a motion to adjourn early so they didn't have to discuss the Equality Act for the LGBT community. And you got people like Rep. Adam Kinzinger, who is always out there to shake his finger at something, you know, mean. He's a Republican. Mean that Trump has said, something loony Marjorie has said. But do you know who sat there and voted to approve her early adjournment? Adam Kinzinger. And this is the problem because they go on the mainstream media. Mainstream media loves the flowery words and don't look any further. There's no journalistic integrity that they go digging in to find out, well, you say this, but you voted this way. They never do that. So he gets to come up there and pretend like he has all this decency and decorum, which he does not. I don't, but I would almost respect her because at least she has the gumption to say it out loud. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't go behind closed doors. She doesn't do a little secret vote hoping that nobody's watching C-SPAN to know that you also don't agree with people living their lives. Like, it doesn't bother you. Mind your business. It costs $0.00 to mind your own business. Nothing these folks are doing to live a normal life is hampering your rights at all. But this nut, Marjorie Taylor Greene, had the nerve to come out and say she's trying to fight for women's rights and women equality. So of course I'm a troll. So I trolled her on Twitter and I said, "Oh, so you're for abortion now? Because you're fighting for women's rights. That means you're approving of women having autonomy over their own body." No, it's because we don't want the little girls to be in the bathroom with men. First of all, if a woman previously born a male identifies herself as a woman, she is a woman. And just because she's in the bathroom with the little girl does not mean that she wants to harm that little girl. So the lies that they use to scare up these people that are down south, that won't crack open a book, that won't listen to the science, that won't understand that homosexuality or even gender, feeling that you're the wrong gender does not equate to pedophilia. And they're able to scare these people up in such a lather that they go out and vote. They vote these monsters in office to try to hold other people's rights against them. You know, this is the problem that we're running into. So Tracy, you're very right. We need to get more progressives in office. We need to have more tolerant people in office. Unfortunately, until these people have these type of, you know, these people feel comfortable coming out and saying how they really feel in these folks' family, that's when they'll finally maybe start having some type of empathy and caring that this is something that affects everyone. And it's not so much so that it's because it's only some demon trying to touch your child. It's literally somebody trying to survive in this world, just like everybody else.
Yeah, and I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I misspoke. Do they realize in Europe they have unisex bathrooms? Like there's no male and female bathrooms. There's just like a big bathroom and everybody goes to they don't know that, do they? Because I'm just amazed at how somebody in Georgia thought, you know what? That's the woman I'm gonna put in office. That's it right there. Keep with that racism, that sexism, that homophobia. Yes, that's for me. Who wakes up and thinks this? And the way they were showing that little clip of her putting on her her big poster that said there's two girl, sit down. Okay, let's just say that's what she really believes. As an American, she has every right to believe that. I'm not going to take that right away from her. But you're in a legislative position. You're going to tell me you're just legislating for straight white people who are male? Is that what you're going to say? You're going to say there's nobody gay in your whole district. Okay.
Talisha, the next time you troll her, Talisha, ask her, since she says follow the science, ask her what she thinks of hermaphrodites.
She probably won't even think they're real, but I definitely will do it.
I mean, I look at her and I'm just like, her and that other Republican lady. I'm like, oh,
Boebert.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Normally, I don't like to call women names because I think that's classless. But those, oh my goodness, I'm like,
I must be classless because you don't want to know what I call them.
Me too.
Think about what you're calling, and I'm almost on that train because I'm like, you don't represent. Like I said, if she wants to think there are two, I can't take that right from her. I cannot. There's no way I can make her to stop to think that. But she is just, it seems like she's taken it to an extreme. It's like she has this deep-rooted hatred. And when it crosses the hatred line, that's when I have problems. And I'm like,
and the problem is that when that hate spills over into legislation, they can think what they want as long as they don't act on it. But if they're in a legislature, oh my God, if they affect the lives of every person in the country.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Well, former President George Bush, who they love to launder him and act like he didn't kill millions of Iraqis and untold number of Iraqis. It's estimated at 1 million, and thousands of American soldiers. He actually tried to get the Constitution changed so same-sex couples couldn't marry. But because he smiles and he paints and he hands Michelle Obama a effing mint, they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I can't take it.
I can't no more.
I just can't. I don't understand why this is okay. And it, like you guys said, you're in America. Have whatever belief system you want, but your beliefs shouldn't infringe upon my rights. That's what it says all up and down the Bill of Rights and the Constitution.
Well, the problem is with that, some people take their own religious beliefs and try to improve them underneath everybody. Yeah. And you can't do that when you serve in a legislative body because you're supposed to be governing all of the people with all of their beliefs. I can't just get into office and say, you know what, I think at 12 o'clock, everybody ought to read their Bible. No, I can't do that.
Cannot.
That just makes no sense. I can't take my will and just say, everybody do that. That's why we have something that conservatives don't like to talk about, is separation of church and state. You can believe whatever you want. If you believe that clowns are a superior being, honey, paint your face and do what you do. But when your belief of clowns impedes my right to practice free speech, to practice my profession, that's when you've gone too far. I think, Talisha, you're trying to say something. You're on mute. You weren't trying to say something. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's crazy going on in my background.
Oh, okay. I was like, she's trying to say something. But again, this was another one that makes me scratch my head. And the other thing I want to get to before Black Lives Matter is this, and I know it's called CPAC, but I call it the CPAC convention is taking place. This is where apparently conservatives gather to have, well, I say services that along their racism. And one of the things that stood out for me is Mr. Ted Cruz, and I will not call him senator because he does not deserve the title. How do you think it's a good idea to get up there and make jokes about, oh, I could be a kid, it's not as nice as Ken Cook? What? Are you out of, well, you have to have a mind to be out of your mind.
Exactly.
Who thinks that type of thing is funny? Who sits there and says, you know what, I'm gonna make a joke about people suffering? Yeah.
Right.
You notice that even in the audience or in the gathering, it fell flat. Even they knew it was too far.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's twofold because one, he's still lying about it. So if you basically did a mea culpa and said, which it looked like he started to do, like, I was wrong, and obviously if I could do it again I wouldn't, but then he threw his daughters under the bus, and then he threw the neighbors under the bus because they need they leaked to the media, and the media needs a new whooping boy now that Trump's gone. So had he maybe taken responsibility for it, you might have gotten a chuckle, but at the end of the day, people died. An 11-year-old baby froze to death in his bed. This is nothing to joke about. People are still suffering from the rolling blackouts and not having heat, and some people being so desperate they brought grills in their house and their houses caught on fire. There's nothing funny at all about this.
And there's all the houses that had burst water pipes. The damage done, many of those houses will eventually be condemned for mold.
Oh my God. And then don't forget about the power bills that were like 15 grand after.
Yeah, and
what's funny, Ted Cruz? I want to laugh.
Yeah, it's like this isn't the comic view. I mean, first of all, the joke wasn't funny at all. It's like it's like somebody didn't tell him, you don't do this. You stand there, you take responsibility, you take your kicking and say, hey, yeah, don't do what I did and be stupid. Now that would have been funny if he had taken responsibility, but he keeps throwing his entire family under the bus, and I don't know why his family sticks by his side, because if I were his wife, which no, but if I were married and he threw me under, we got a problem. We already got a problem. That means he's willing to throw anybody under the bus to be
idiot. She is every bit as vile as he is. I mean, she's what, a top executive at Goldman Sachs or something like Goldman Sachs. I'm not sure what exactly her position is, but it's very high.
Yes.
She has the same mindset.
She has to. Yeah. I mean, look how low her standards are. I mean, they showed a picture of him and Mr. Potato Head, and I was like, you know what?
Mr. Potato Head's looking not so bad.
I'm like, if I had to pick, I'm not Miss America, no, but I think I might be rocking on Team Mr. Potato Head. That's just me. But
I've been saying this all over Facebook. I'm not one to mock people's looks, but I'm beginning to notice that the uglier people are on the inside, the more it seeps to the outside.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's really showing who he was. I mean, you think about it. This is the guy who endorsed a president that said his father killed JFK. Really?
He called his wife a dog. He called your wife ugly.
And then you sit there and support them. I'd have been like, nah, dude, me and you got to have a conversation. Let's take this outside. Because,
Exactly.
I wish my spouse would let some other man call me ugly. I'm like, excuse you, you better take care of business.
Exactly.
Or I'm gonna do it. You don't want me to do it, because I do it, I go low.
And I don't remember who said it, but somebody said something to the effect of, I know after Trump made that statement, it was before he got the nomination, so there was no Secret Service. He needed to pull up, and he didn't. Did you know everything you needed to know?
Well, Trump is the one who gave him the title "Lying Ted Cruz,"
Mm.
and it's stuck. It's stuck.
I think that's one of the few times that Trump was right. I mean, we just went to, because our daughters wanted to go, and here come texts between your wife and a group of people talking about, hey, I found this great hotel. Oh, okay. Your babies. I don't want to go back on my last week point of you threw your babies under the bus, but he threw his babies under the bus. What a okay, let me take a breath. Okay, so what we're gonna do is this, audience, is we're gonna take a 5-minute break, and we're gonna come back and talk about Black Lives Matter. See you guys later.
That's gonna be a mouthful.
Okay, guys, we are back, and we're moving into section 2 of our discussion. We're gonna discuss Black Lives Matter. Maybe a little history lesson for some people out there. First of all, Black Lives Matter is not a terrorist group, no matter what the Republican Party says, does, tries to act like. They were not at the protest on January 6th posing as Trump supporters. They are not advocates of violence against people. What else about them isn't true? I've heard a lot of things about Black Lives Matter, but for me, it's not about the organization of Black Lives Matter. It's just about Black Lives Matter, period.
Yes.
There's how long can then people that are non-Black expect for us to be targeted by the police, killed by the police, and us just sit back and let's just be fine with it? It's affected me, and I'm glad that at least, unfortunately, it takes murder to do it, but we're mobilizing and we're putting our voices together and saying, you know what, it's time for a change.
Right.
And anybody can jump in at that point.
Okay, my problem is.
Well, we all know that.
Hold on. Ahead, I think Mickey wanted to say something.
Far too many white people don't want Black Lives to matter. That's the problem. Some people don't understand. I'll give them that. Some people don't believe. I'll give them that a little. There are too many who are very happy that Black lives don't matter. We need education in this country desperately. We need history to be taught honestly, not the way we were taught in school.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I know the reason that the group was initiated was because they killed Trayvon Martin, and right after that, they killed Michael Brown and Ferguson. And by they, I mean white supremacists, because George Zimmerman didn't belong to anyone's police force, but he thought he had the privilege over a Black body to tell them when and where they could go. And even though the police themselves told him to get back in his vehicle and leave that young man alone, he still found it upon himself to go and police that young Black man. And when that young Black man defended himself, he murdered him. And what did the white supremacists do? They yelled at Barack Obama, who for once in his whole entire presidency actually stood up for what was right and said, that could have been my son, just walking down the street. And as a Black mother of 2 Black boys, I have a Black daughter too, but I worry a little less for her, that they could just be walking down the street, or my son could be driving my nice car and he could be pulled over because they perceive him as a threat. They perceive him as somebody that's going to do some wrong. He hadn't done anything wrong. There's nothing that says, oh, there's a neon light saying that my Black son just did something to someone else. But because he is perceived as bigger, stronger, more evil, about to go rape some white woman, they feel the need to police the activity of Black people and kill us. And all we're asking, we're not even asking for extra. We're just asking to be treated like humans. And then that's frowned upon, and that's talked about, and that's made to feel less than. And that's made to be, there's lies told about the thought process behind just telling you we matter too. So now you got to get the comparison of, well, blue lives matter. First of all, there's no such thing as a blue life. That doesn't exist. I don't care what they say about the cops. They can take that uniform up, hang it up, and no one will be any wiser. They can say, I'm not working this job ever again, and they're safe for the rest of their lives. So that doesn't matter. All lives matter. Yeah, all lives matter. Guess what's encompassed in that all life? Black lives.
And this Blue Lives Matter thing
Disgusting.
gets me very angry because nobody cared about blue lives until the BLM movement started.
Exactly.
The only reason they started Blue Lives Matter is to detract and distract from BLM. That's the only reason. How much does the right wing care about blue lives? Let's look at January 6th.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And it just infuriates me that there are some Black people that will just throw away the whole Black Lives Matter movement to say, oh, they harm property. I don't care about property. Property does not matter to me. If it takes destroying a target, you know what? Oh, well. Now, I'm not saying destroy lives. I would never, ever say that. But now you're putting more value in a store than you are a person. That doesn't do anything for me.
And those people who are arguing about the riots and the destruction seem to be forgetting that both the DHS and the FBI, both headed by Trump picks,
right,
have stated 93% of the BLM protests were peaceful. Of the 7% that weren't, the majority of that was started by right-wing white supremacist infiltrators.
Exactly.
Let's not forget that. So when we're talking about destruction, let's talk about who started that destruction and violence. Never mind the police that started the violence.
Absolutely.
Or police posing as Black Lives Matter protesters and destroying property and saying, oh, look what they did. Good. And I hear so many other things about Black Lives Matter movement, the organization, that I don't understand where they're coming from. I don't know if they're coming from a place of homophobia. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's like, oh, the organization is anti-male. No, it was started because a male was killed. I guess I don't get it. I don't understand how anyone can tell me that this organization doesn't have the interests of Black people in mind. Now, and I don't know if you guys were reading about some of the money that they allegedly took or they don't put back into the community. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't understand where this criticism is coming from. It seems to be coming from people that look like me, and I don't know where that's rooted in. Because I don't hear.
Well, let me tell you, that's as old as time. Because let's not forget who killed Malcolm X. It was a Black man. Who killed Fred Hampton? Who put that Mickey in his drink to basically sedate him so the police could come and kill him? It was a Black man. Because if nothing else, the right wing and the white supremacists love to hide behind Black faces to justify their bigotry and to justify them tearing down something. So it's not hard to find some Black person who doesn't care about our community or is more interested in self to go and be that face, so white supremacy can hide behind it and legitimize their tearing down of something that's trying to do something good. I'm not 100% of the motivations of the people who came together for Black Lives Matter. I do remember a houseless young lady who was one of their strongest advocates getting murdered over the summer. And she was a Black Lives Matter supporter and an advocate, and she was leading one of their charters. So the fact that she was houseless and was able to fall victim to some predator makes me kind of give them the side eye. But the ideology holds true. Whatever their reasoning for their being is, the ideology holds true. Black lives matter, and you need to stop murdering us because we're other. You need to stop othering us. The fact that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, they put a little 9-year-old baby in handcuffs and pepper sprayed her in the face because certain white folks perceive black people as older and stronger than what we really are. She was 9. He told her she was acting like a child. She was 9. So
Two cops,
that being said,
that was two cops. Two big male cops could not handle a 9-year-old child.
And I think it's really exactly. They didn't want to, because if we notice anything from the Capitol riots, they found all the restraint in the world to deal with those white folks. One, they didn't even dispatch as many protections that they needed in place because it was just these white people, because white people are perceived as not a harm, not a threat. And I don't understand how some of the most oppressed people, black people, are considered the most violent. Like Tamika Mallory said, if we're violent, it's because you taught us. If we are destructive, it's because you taught us. These are things you taught us. You dragged us over here in boats and chains. You Jim Crowed us and told us we had to walk in the puddle so a white person could walk down the street. You told us that we had to eat the scraps while you ate the great food. So if we've learned to be people that are striving and scraping to get by, and we're harming people to do that, it's because you taught us that. So if you want to see less violence coming from black people, how about change the way you treat black people?
Or you'll get my favorite one, you'll get idiot politicians. And I'm going to call his name Jim Clyburn, who will sit and tell me, oh, you lost the election because you're talking about. I try to respect my elders because that's what I was taught to do. But when I tell you, when I heard him say that statement about defunding the police, which is a core belief of Black Lives Matter, I wanted to throw my shoe, my computer, my laptop, my TV. I wanted to smash something because I couldn't believe I'm sitting here watching this black man who went through the civil rights movement, who got to where he was because of people like John Lewis and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, all of a sudden turn around and just say, oh, we lost because we fund the police. Are you serious? Are you serious with that? You didn't lose because of that. You lost for several other reasons, but that's not why you lost. We need more politicians, and I'm in agreement with Representative Bush when she said, if you don't know what it is, Google it. You have Google, just type Black Lives Matter and see what they believe. Don't, when you lose an election and you lose seats, oh, we should give the police more money. No, that's not the answer. And I don't know, Joe Biden. You all just all talk because I'm getting angry and I'm trying not to get angry.
Luckily, at the age of 72, I don't have to respect anybody else's age.
I love it.
The man has been bought and paid for. He's a DNC stooge.
Yes. And I'll tell you, like the old saying goes, I refuse to argue with someone that Harriet Tubman would have shot. Okay? So the simple fact is,
never heard that one.
Relevant. Feel free to use that. I borrowed it.
But then you hear somebody like our former president come out and say, well, that's problematic and you're not going to. Are you serious? And he's young enough to know. But I'm like, what? What's going on in your mind to say that? You cannot really believe that. I shouldn't have been shocked, but I was in shock when Obama said that. I'm like, wait a minute, what did he say? I had to play it back like 10 times, and I was still like, no, he didn't say that. No, he couldn't have said what I think he said. He said what I thought he said. And I'm like,
unfortunately, I was not shocked by Barry's comments. He's also stated that he doesn't believe in reparations. And if nothing burns me up more,
he came out for them. He has written a piece. It was recent. I'll tag you because I was like, oh, well, you did that now. When he was running for president, he wasn't. But now apparently he's like all on the side of reparations.
I'll believe it when I see it. I don't trust it.
Yep. I was like, oh, now you're gonna say that you're not president no more. Thanks. That's what we
Yeah,
need.
but I don't even know, because the simple fact is he hadn't been president for a long time, but he's still doing things to undercut
Yeah.
the most marginalized communities. So the simple fact is that might be a good soundbite and get him a little bit more Netflix views and get him a little more podcast views, because he's got all these money making ventures to, I don't know, once you're just grossly rich, I don't know how much more you have to sell out people to get more rich. I don't understand it, but maybe because I've never been rich, I don't understand the need for more and more and more wealth. But time after time after time, he has sold out the working people of this country to cater to the rich masses. So it's no different from him getting on a live program, which irritates me to no end because he's very influential in the Black community and he has a stranglehold on the Black community. And it's to the point where Tracy and I have been dogged out as Black people. Mickey has been cursed out and told that she was no good because she tried to tell the truth about Barack Obama. Whatever his motivations are, it is not to help the poor, the disenfranchised, the marginalized. And we need to stop pinning our faith in man's coattails, because they simply will disappoint you every time, especially when they pretend to be one thing and then their true colors come out.
And they're doing it. I mean, people are doing this whole thing with Black Lives Matter in the current administration. What makes people think that Joe Biden saying, I want to give the police more money, going to, that doesn't solve the problem.
And on national news, the reporter said to him, "What do you think of the BLM movement?" His immediate response was, "I want the violence and the looting to stop."
Yeah, what?
Jesus.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Even when your government intel tells everybody else that it's not the BLM that's doing it. That was his statement.
Exactly. And I'm
because
like,
Joe Biden is an old racist from Delaware.
Yeah, and he's never stopped. He has never stopped. I have links I have a lot of links of his racist statements just last year alone.
Yes.
People refuse to believe it. No, that was in the past.
Gaffes. They're gaffes.
No, they were gaffes.
Gaff
I make a lot of gaffes, but there are some things that don't even enter my mind. Never mind, come out of my mouth. They're not gaffes. They're his mindset. And people insist that was the past. You can't talk about him 30, 40, 50. I'm sorry. I'm talking about last year.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I make gaffes. I think we all have said something. We're like, what was I really thinking?
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody has ever heard me make a statement that says, you know what? All white people ain't trash. I would never say that because one, I don't believe it.
Right.
But he literally said, "Oh, stop! I forgot all about the stop the violence." And I'm like, you do know that most Black Lives Matter protesters are not racist, right? You do know that. I mean, even his whole refusal, and I know, Talisha, you don't like this person, but even his whole refusal to meet with Ice Cube. I know Ice Cube got into the whole political game a little late for you, but the ideas that the agreement was talking about, I think those have real validity in terms of actual progress for the Black people. He didn't write it. And of course, he got into the game late. But you're telling him, oh, wait, again, how long are we going to wait for justice? We can't wait for it. It's time to vet these police officers, stop recruiting at KKK rallies for police officers, get rid of this thing where a cop can get fired at IMPD and drive 10 miles south and get hired at something. Yeah. We need to stop those type of things. The Biden administration could do, and they're not going to do them because, again, I don't think that either Biden nor Harris are in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Definitely. But when his first reaction is to accuse BLM of all the violence and looting, that's the first thing that popped in his head. That tells you his mindset.
Exactly. It's like, oh, so you just think we're all out here looting. And I'm not going to say there was no looting. I'm not stupid. But I'm going to say, well, 93% of people were not looting. 93% of people marched peacefully.
And of the 7% left over, most of that was white supremacists, not
Exactly.
BLM. Yes, there were some BLM, but the percentage was tiny.
And
Right.
look how much pass he gets from people like Michael Eric
Mike
Dyson.
Arrow Dyson.
Yes, and
Oh,
Jason Johnson, who says, "Oh, well, he talked about racism in his inauguration." That was one sentence. Are you serious?
Exactly.
One sentence. One. No action.
And just speaking clearly for Talisha Conklin and Talisha Conklin's household, I was okay with the violence against property, not against people. If it's okay to kill someone over property, I'm a firm believer it's okay to tear up some property over somebody being murdered. Okay, and if that's the case, that you're gonna keep murdering Black people to to protect a target, I'm burning down that target. And granted, this is me talking in theory. I'd prefer folks to just change on their own, but I understand the motivations behind it. You're literally telling me that my life is not worth the value of a building. You can kill me over the perception that maybe I just went and lifted something. Remember that little case in Arizona a couple of years back where they thought a little girl took a Barbie out of the dollar store and they
right.
had guns all on the pregnant wife, had the husband thrown up against the car over a dollar store toy. And you're telling me that that's okay? You can look at me with a straight face and say, well, the little 1-year-old stole something off the shelf at a dollar store. I don't have a problem with somebody tearing down all this capitalism to
Well,
let you know that lives are important.
I understand,
Tear it down.
you know, that's your frame of reference, but I kind of want to take it the other way and tell you why I'm against it. But I definitely value people over property because I think about the businesses, the small businesses, not Target, not Walmart. They're in a whole nother evil category. Um, they were talking to this Black business person that store was destroyed. Now him I felt sorry for because here's a Black business and I don't know whether the looters were Black LM protesters or not, but that kind of destruction I'm not going to be for. But in theory, I could see the frustration because when you have, and I think Dr. King talked about this, when you have violence, it doesn't just pop out of nowhere. That's
Exactly.
frustration piled upon frustration, piled upon frustration. And when something tragic happens, that's going to come out some way or the other.
I can't even
Exactly.
imagine the depth of Black people's rage. I get enraged when I see this stuff, and I'm white and I've never experienced it. I cannot even imagine how you guys feel when you see it.
I
It's beyond my comprehension.
I feel
It's
like
sickening. It's
it's
sickening.
it's sickening, but
It's
yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Tracy.
I was just gonna say
So
it
it's to
definitely
the
is
point where I can't watch it anymore. Look at us talking. There's a delay, you guys. So sorry. Um, it it's to the point where I can't even watch it anymore. If it comes up, it's because somebody has aired it on maybe a show I'm watching. But if somebody sends it to me in a feed, I go right past it because I can't watch it anymore, and it hits too close to home. Of course, I accidentally saw a video during the Texas blackouts where this poor young man, and you guys probably saw it, was trying to walk down the street home from work. And he was walking down the
Oh,
street because the sidewalk was covered in snow. So, what does
I
the
just
police
got
decide to
chills.
do? It was disgusting. They kept bothering and harassing him, and he was very calm. He was like, listen, I'm just trying to go home. I just got off of work. I'm going home. Well, can we have your name? Can we see your ID? For what? What do you need that for? It's harassment, plain and simple. And so this is why, Tracy, I do say I totally understand burning it down mentality. I get it. I totally get it because of the perception that we may have done something or we might do something means it's okay for you to police and harass our Black bodies. And
I
just for
saw that.
that one person you said, Tracy, that was you felt bad for them because their small Black business was burned down or torn down. Well, there was another Black business owner in I think it was Kenosha that or where was George Floyd? Minneapolis.
mm-hmm.
Their stuff got torn down. And you know what they said? Guess what? I'm gonna rebuild. And it's
Yeah.
not that easy. I get it. It's not that easy.
I,
God willing, hopefully they had insurance, all the people that were attacked. And hopefully there's a grassroots efforts in that Black community or the community at large that help them to rebuild. But I would have more of the mentality of that one that said, guess what? I'm going to rebuild. Because the
I
simple fact
saw
is, go
I
ahead.
saw the video you're talking about. Halfway through, as the cops continued to escalate, and I started crying. There was no doubt in my mind he would be
Yeah,
shot and killed. I started crying over a video because
exactly.
there was no doubt in my mind he was done. I'm
Yeah.
getting chills here. It's
Yeah, watching
it's
it.
come down to that.
Yeah,
And then she kept putting her hands on him, and he was backing her off. Please don't touch me. But now it's you touch the cop, and now he's in cuffs. Like, but ma'am, I'm trying to walk home and mind my own business, and you guys ran up on me.
and the
And
police officers
you're
are not. They're not disciplined. Nothing's going to happen to them. They'll probably get a raise. And it's just when you ask Nikki, how do you deal with it? I can't deal with it.
no,
And I think I'm one of the most non-violent people until you push me to a point. I get to the point, it's like, you know what? This is it's tiring. I
yes,
am so tired of seeing Black people get killed for literally no reason. And to me, there's no reason to kill, but if a Black person per se was holding up a bank and they start shooting people, okay, I can see violence in that rare, very, very rare instance.
right,
Okay, that makes sense. But when you're walking down the street and you're walking the street because the snow was taking up the ground, what gives that police officer license to harass that person? No, nobody from the police department has said, we're sorry.
no,
That shouldn't have happened. No, it's if you say anything against the police, you're against the police. And that's
exactly,
ridiculous. One, because we had to remember why the police was started in the first place.
right,
It was to capture slaves. Yeah,
right,
America, get that in your head. The police departments in your city were started to capture people that look like me.
right,
That's what the police are for. And these erroneous budgets where they're literally the police budget of IMPD rivals that of a small country. Are you serious? You're telling me you need a tank to keep people in check? You need weapons that they don't even use in the military. You need
right.
tear gas and tanks and missile. What is it? How do you
For American citizens.
exactly American citizens? If you think that you live in a place that bad, you need to employ martial law or something. If you
Right.
think it's that bad that you have to start using tanks, you probably need to start rethinking of some job programs that you need to put in that city instead. And I'm glad that Black Lives is speaking up because I don't believe the NAACP cares anymore. But
No,
that's my personal opinion. I will
I
not
agree.
up on them, but
I
I
agree.
don't. I think that they're so emboldened to the corporate interests that they just have gone. And I know that the NAACP was not started by Black people. I know
Right.
that.
Really,
However,
I didn't,
no,
Tracy.
NAACP was not
No,
started by Black people.
I didn't know that. Teach
No.
me.
I believe five white people sat on the starting board of NAACP.
Jewish people. They were Jewish.
Yes, they were not Black. The NAACP was not started by Black people
Didn't
at
know
all.
that.
Yes, and yes, it was not ever started by Black people. And they do, I guess, some good things, but it's like, no, we need something new.
It's very few and far between. It seems like nowadays they're just kind of fighting for HBCU rights, which is great. It's wonderful. We need to have colleges that represent our interests because there was a time where we could not go to those colleges. So it's great. But I feel like we have a huge need in the Black community, and our representation, as you said, Tracy, has been bought and paid off. John Lewis, who everybody reveres, let's make some good trouble, he was bought off. Bobby Rush, who used to be a Black Panther, who's now a representative down in
Wait a
Illinois,
minute.
he was bought off.
I don't mean to stop you. Did you say John? Explain when you say John Lewis, because I hold John Lewis and I'm like, I elevate him. So you're gonna have to explain that
Well,
to
the
me.
John Lewis of the 60s was a fighter, and he went in head first and got his head cracked to fight for equal rights. But as the years went on and he sat in that Congress seat, he started taking more and more money from the corporations. Look it up. He's one of those same folks that took a lot of money from the healthcare industry and started fighting less for equality and more for just John Lewis.
Oh no, now
So
you're just breaking my whole heart
it's
here.
pretty sad, and that's why I'm so scared that our representatives that we love and we tout so hard, how long can you stay in Congress? That's why we need to have those term limits, because I think it gets harder and harder to be that voice in the wind. And maybe they think, well, I'll just take a little bit of this corporate money because I can do better, and then it gets harder to tell the corporations no. And so I can definitely send you some stuff on John Lewis and how towards
Yeah,
the
you're
end.
breaking my whole heart here. I'm
I'm
like,
sorry. That's how I felt about Barack Obama 4 years ago when the truth slapped me in the face. My whole face was on the floor because you couldn't tell me Barack Obama wasn't the best thing since sliced bread and he didn't love our Black
John
people.
Lewis? Oh,
Hello,
you are
somebody.
really, I
So-
mean, that broke my whole heart.
Yeah, so I will send you some stuff and maybe we can attach it to this video so folks can get their own edification. But yeah, they just, and Elijah Cummings, same here. Like he was a paramount of virtue over a paragon of virtue over in Baltimore City, fighting for the rights. But with all things, that capital, that money is evil, and
Now
it
next you're gonna
starts to
start
take
telling
people
me
away.
Maxine Waters takes money. Now that
Oh,
I'm being sarcastic.
child, wait
Now I'm
for
being
it.
sarcastic.
I love me some Aunt Maxine, but Aunt Maxine's on the take too. How about
Yes.
she made it her business to make sure Katie Porter wasn't going to get on that financial services committee because Katie Porter asked those probing questions, and some things they don't want to know. So she made it her business to make sure Katie Porter
Yeah.
could not get on the financial services committee. So
Katie
Maxine-
Porter
I
was
was being totally sarcastic. I was like, ah.
Yeah, well, I love
Katie-
Aunt Maxine because I love the way she ripped Trump apart. But you can love certain aspects and hate other aspects. She on the take too. Oh, but if we can go back real quick, you know how you were saying they put all this money into these police budgets. Mickey can tell us NYPD just got a robot dog.
oh
what?
my God.
Yes,
Wait a minute,
A ro-
a robot dog.
Yeah,
yes.
that they sent into an apartment building.
Mm.
So they thinking this is the Jetsons?
Well, the company that makes these robotic animals, they are partially subsidized by the, you guessed it, military industrial complex. And so they will not only be possibly outfitting our police forces to further alienate the rights of marginalized people, they will now start subsidizing probably the military to make sure there's one more thing that they can go and kill people on their own land with.
Yeah, that's why
that-
some people want wars to be continued. They
It's
don't want
just-
people
that's
don't
true.
Oh
want.
yeah.
But I mean, you even talk about simple reforms like, and I thought, oh, this is a great idea, make them wear cameras. Well, that would make sense if one, the cameras weren't made by evil corporations.
Mm.
Second, if the police officers would remember to turn their cameras on, that would be great.
I doubt they're forgetting.
You know, I'm being sarcastic because they don't want to turn them on, so they don't. And then, thirdly, to hold them accountable when they're seeing something that seems kind of out of whack. I used to.
Well, the grand jury just decided they weren't going to prosecute the murderers of Daniel Pruitt up in New York, up in Rochester, New York. Remember the young man they killed in the middle of the street who was having a mental health crisis, and they had him naked on the freezing ground and put a hood over his head, and he
Yep.
suffocated to death? No charges, none.
And it was on.
And I do believe Tish James when she said she fought her hardest. But if you have a jury that's already half baked into the police can do no wrong, you're not going to get charges.
Yeah, and
Well, look at the cops in Buffalo who knocked down that 70-something-year-old man,
oh my
cracked
goodness.
his skull, bleeding out of his ears, and anyone with half a mind knows that's dangerous.
Exactly.
No charges. It's on
None.
video. No charges.
And stepped over his daggone near lifeless body and
And-
forced the one guy that tried to help to keep going.
Yep.
Yeah, the one guy was trying to help him. He's like, get up, go.
Mhm.
And look how, I mean, let's not talk about Breonna Taylor case, the
Oh,
prosecutor that wanted to lose on purpose.
All kinfolk ain't kinfolk.
Exactly. It's like I said, the police really, we need to have community vetting of police officers
Absolutely.
because we can't stop going to KKK rallies and getting your police officers because it seems
Absolutely.
to me that's where you're getting them from. You can't have all of this racism seen in our policing, especially our military, and you're just, oh, it doesn't exist. Let me give them more money. No, give them less money. Get those.
That doesn't even make sense to probably the police. Why would you give us more money if we've taken the money we've gotten thus far to buy further things that's going to harm
Because they
people
go through
and not train
And
properly?
the sad thing is, we have a lot of examples of Camden, New Jersey, at one time was called the most dangerous city in the country. They defunded their police, I think it was 7 years ago. Not only did cops killing blacks drop dramatically, all crime dropped dramatically. All
Beautiful.
crime. So I think Seattle did it. There was another city who did it 11, 14 years ago. All crime dropped dramatically because they
Right.
used the funds to help the community so there wouldn't be crimes.
Right.
It's been proven to work.
Exactly.
well, it's like they don't want it to work.
Of
It's like
course
they're just
not.
saying, oh, you know what? People go out and commit crimes so we can put you in jail forever and a day for little silly things like carrying a little gram of marijuana or something that makes no sense of people. There should be jails. When you murder someone or you rob a bank and take a hostage, yes, you need to be in jail. But if you're, I don't know, you get in an argument with your neighbor and you throw a couple of fists, do you really need to be in prison for that? If you didn't really, you really need to?
Or
We
look what they did to Khalif Browder. The suspicion of a stolen backpack got him locked up in Rikers Island for 3 years.
for years.
And the rape and then once they got tired of him getting raped, apparently they put him in solitary and he couldn't deal with it so much so that this boy kills himself. There's a problem with that. So that's a whole nother issue with the cash bail system that needs to go away because apparently if you're rich, you can break any law in this world because you
Yeah,
can
and
cheat your way out of trouble.
I think Illinois has banned cash bail.
That's a beautiful thing that
Yeah,
needs to
I'm
be
pretty sure.
50 wide.
And so many people say, look at the percentage of blacks in prison. It's so much higher than the population. New York, for example,
Absolutely.
the cops have been told specifically go into these black neighborhoods and arrest even for just marijuana.
Absolutely.
Specifically, how Wall Street is famous for cocaine. I mean, it
Yes.
snows there every day. How
Yes.
many times do cops patrol Wall Street?
Not at all.
Not at
Not at
all.
all.
Sure, of course, there's more blacks in prison. You only go to black neighborhoods to arrest people.
Exactly.
But
To
Exactly.
break
do
in
you know
windows
what? And
there.
our laws, who uses crack, who uses powdered cocaine?
Hmm.
The penalty. Let me get this straight. For both, is for the getting caught for the first time. The penalty is 5 years mandatory. There's only a little difference. With crack, it's 5 grams. With powdered cocaine, it's 500 grams. Who
Exactly.
uses which?
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. There, like I said, again, at the core of this whole Black Lives Matter discussion is America's racist attitudes that really
Yes.
need to be changed. And again, we need more progressives in office. You can't change people's hearts because if you're a racist, you're going to be a racist. If you don't like black people, you're not going to like black people. But I can guarantee
Right.
you this: if I see a business that I don't think is welcoming to somebody who looks like me, I'm not going to take my money and spend it at your restaurants. I'm not going to take money and buy your clothes. I'm not going to take anything from you. I'm going to put you on the cancel list. And
Exactly.
it just amazes me again how so many black people speak against, and Talisha, you explained it great, but it still amazes me how many black people speak against Black Lives Matter, And I'm like, do you look in the mirror and just say that you don't matter? I just want to ask people like Candace Owens and Diamond and Silk, do you not know that you're Black and you're treated different? Did you just wake up and just say, you know what? Not me. How much money can they be getting? How much money is out there for them to just sell their whole souls and throw an entire community under the? It's just amazing.
Candace Owens was publicly speaking and said there is no racism in this country. I have never seen it. I've never experienced it until the story came out how she sued these white people
twice
for, I forget, a racial attack or attack
discrimination. Twice.
Yeah. Oops. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's like,
exactly.
Did you not wake up and not know you Black? You can't look in a mirror and see, oh, I look different from everybody else. I'm just gonna sell my community out and say that it was Black Lives Matter at the. I mean, I think she's the one that started the whole. It was Black Lives Matter at the January 6th event. Really?
I don't know. I think there was like a memo that went out to all white supremacists and right wing.
She is a white supremacist
because they all.
Yeah, she's a white supremacist. Period.
Even funnier is I'm accusing Antifa of being there, because Antifa came to the Capitol to stop the count of the votes that would prove that they won.
Exactly.
It's like, come on. Well, we are at the end of another program. I've had so much enlightenment discussing today, and I am going to be doing my Black History highlights. So I'm going to share my screen here with you all, and audience. I hope I don't come into tears over this one, because when I thought about who I was going to share and what I wanted to talk about, were these four ladies. And I hope everybody out there can see who's on my screen. These are the memories of, I want to share the memories of four little girls that were killed in a church. They came to worship, but unfortunately, white supremacists thought, let's just bomb the church. And I want to call the names of these four little girls because they never got to see adulthood. They never got to be parents. They never got to get married. They never got to have children. They were killed as children because of racism. And when we remember the contributions of Black people, of all the great things that we've ever done, and we've done some great things, we should never forget these four young little girls, these four babies that were taken way too early. So that is Denise McNair right there. And she is born November the 17th, 1951. She is a couple months older than what my mother was. So she would be, oh, I'm sorry, she's born, yep, and she died, of course, on September 15th. So she's a couple months older than what my mother is. Or no, my mother is a couple months older than she is. So she and my mother would have been the same age. Then we have Carol Robertson. She was born April 24th, 1949. And then Cynthia Wesley, who was born April the 30th. And Addie Mae Collins, who was born the 15th. These four young girls got basically robbed of their whole lives. And it infuriates me that treatment like this is still happening, and this is 2021. We've made achievements, yes, we have, but we have so far to go before we obtain the equality that we deserve, that we work for. So when you hear Black people or Black progressives talk about waking up the consciousness of white progressives or people attacking white racism, never again accuse us of being racist, because these four ladies or these four girls will always be in my heart and my mind as I remember the contributions of Black history and how they were robbed of making the contribution to Black history. Yes, they contributed, but no, they should have had to pay with their lives to do it. So that is my Black history moment of four women that I thought were important to share. And
Oh,
that
was
is how
beautiful.
I want to end it, because I think that's the note we need to end it on. So everyone, I definitely thank you for watching this. Again, I thought I was going to break down and cry, because when I saw it, I cried, but I didn't. I kept it legit. But I definitely invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and support us on Patreon. I thank you for watching The Progressive Queens, and tune in next week, same time, same channel. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.